that I'm working on. Red Beezy, DTP, MOB, D4L, Shout It Low, you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace and shout out to you know what I'm saying? But this that new plug, you feel me? About to take over the streets, man. Y'all be ready for it. Real mom life ball shit. You already know. Yeah. So, y'all see this?
Right.
Y'all see how this that Sierra Harp did to me?
The winter night of December 29th, 2017, unfolded into a nightmare in Riverdale, Georgia, when neighbors were startled by frantic knocking on their door. A young woman stood before them, her clothes soaked in blood, clutching her 3-year-old daughter tightly. Shaken and panicked, she claimed she had barely escaped a deadly attack inside her home. Her words painted a picture of a brutal struggle for survival. Yet what investigators later uncovered was a story far more twisted. Inside the apartment lay the lifeless body of 28-year-old rapper Raheem Grant, who performed under the stage name Red Beezy. He had been riddled with bullets, his body carrying wounds that suggested something far darker than the tale told by the injured woman. What made this case chilling beyond belief was that Raheem had left behind digital proof. His phone had captured the horrifying moments leading up to his death, revealing the truth of what really transpired that night. This is a tragic and haunting story of Raheem Grant's life and death. This is True Crime's venue, where we bring to light stories of real people, tales of mystery, sorrow, and hidden warnings that often go unnoticed. Thank you for tuning in. Tell us where you're watching from in the comment section, and do well to share your thoughts on this case with us. Atlanta, Georgia, serve as the backdrop of this tragedy, a vibrant city where art, music, and culture thrive, but where crime and violence remain a constant undercurrent. Known for its booming rap scene, Atlanta was both a land of opportunity and a city plagued by dangers. By 2017, while statistics showed a slight decrease in violent crime compared to earlier years, the city's crime rate still ranked higher than the national average. For aspiring musicians like Raheem, Atlanta was a place to be. It offered energy, exposure, and a community of artists striving for success. But it was also a city where ambitions could quickly collide with chaos, where dreams were often cut short by violence. Raheem's journey began in 1989 in Fayetteville, Georgia, a suburban area outside Atlanta. From childhood, his extraordinary gift was undeniable. At just 3 years old, his mother, Geraldine, noticed his fascination with rhythm as he beat out patterns on everyday household objects. By the time he turned 7, Raheem had already made a mark, performing on Showtime at the Apollo, a moment that showed the world he wasn't just a talented child. He was born to be an artist. Guided closely by his mother, who also acted as his manager, Raheem honed his skills relentlessly. He studied music production, learned engineering, wrote lyrics, and by his early 20s had secured a steady presence in Atlanta's competitive music scene. Friends and colleagues admired not only his work ethic, but also his humility. His growing catalog of songs and production credits made it clear Raheem was destined for greatness. Unlike many who became entangled in the darker sides of the rap industry, Raheem prided himself on staying clear of violence and controversy. Those closest to him described him as ambitious yet grounded. He wanted his music to reflect creativity and resilience, not the drama or street conflicts that often surrounded the hip-hop world. His mission was to build a legacy through his art, provide for his family, and create generational wealth. But his commitment to a peaceful path did not shield him from tragedy, because fate placed in the path of someone who would ultimately destroy him. In 2013, Raheem's life intersected with a young woman named Sierra Harp. She first approached him as a fan, asking for an autograph after one of his shows, but quickly pushed further, seeking a role in his career. Raheem eventually brought her on to assist with promoting his concerts. What began as a professional arrangement gradually shifted into a personal entanglement. Sierra, like Raheem, was born in 1989, but her past was littered with pain and instability. Relatives later revealed that she grew up in an abusive environment, scarred by years of emotional and physical turmoil. Those scars shaped her into a volatile and combative individual. By her teenage years, she was known for violent outbursts, fights, and a dangerous temper. At one point, an ex-boyfriend recalled that she carried a pocket knife and had even stabbed another student during an argument. To Raheem, however, Sierra initially appeared as just another supporter who believed in his music. But this connection, fueled by obsession, would soon derail his promising future. Their relationship grew complicated when Sierra became pregnant. In November 2014, she gave birth to their daughter, Angel, and Raheem's life took on new meaning.
Say yay yay. Say hey. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Yeah. How old are you? How old you turning? 2. Yay. That's a big girl right there.
Friends and family described the birth of Angel as a turning point for him. Fatherhood transformed him. He became more disciplined, more focused, and determined to ensure his daughter would never lack love, stability, or security. To Raheem, being a father was not a burden. It was his greatest motivation. His music was important, but Angel was everything. Yet, while Raheem adored his daughter, his bond with Sierra was far from romantic. He never considered her his partner, often referring to her more as a friend than a girlfriend. Out of a sense of responsibility, and at times necessity, he allowed Sierra to stay with him intermittently, particularly when she struggled financially. But tensions quickly grew. Family members observed Sierra's increasing fixation on Raheem. She wanted more than co-parenting. She wanted possession, control, and exclusivity. But Raheem did not reciprocate those feelings, and his distance ignited her anger. Their relationship became increasingly volatile, marred by jealousy, arguments, and escalating hostility. Recognizing the danger, Geraldine gave her son a piece of advice she hoped he would never need. She urged him to keep his phone nearby and record interactions whenever arguments threatened to spiral out of control. Her reasoning was chillingly prescient. She believed one day such recordings might protect him from false accusations. Tragically, her warning became prophecy. Those very recordings would eventually reveal the most damning evidence of all, the final moments of his life. December 29th, 2017, became the day when all the tension boiled over into deadly violence. At approximately 10:50 p.m., Raheem's neighbor received a frantic knock at the door. When they opened it, Sierra stood there drenched in blood, carrying little Angel in her arms. She appeared to be in shock, her legs bearing multiple stab wounds, and she cried out that Raheem had attacked her. The neighbor, horrified, ushered her inside and locked the door for protection. To anyone observing, Sierra looked like a victim who had narrowly escaped a brutal assault. But what law enforcement soon uncovered painted a very different picture. Responding officers rushed into Raheem's apartment and found his body sprawled between the bedroom and bathroom. He had no weapon in hand, no signs of being the aggressor. Instead, his body bore the marks of execution, shot multiple times, with injuries that told a story of being targeted rather than defended against. Investigators recovered a push knife at the scene, its blade covered in blood. At first glance, it appeared consistent with Sierra's account. Yet the inconsistencies began stacking up. The medical examiner later determined that Raheem had been shot 7 times, not 3, as Sierra initially claimed. Bullets struck his back, his arms, and one lodged fatally in his head. These wounds suggested he was trying to shield himself or retreat, not attack. Meanwhile, Sierra's stab wounds, though dramatic in appearance, raised doubts about their origin. Then came another discovery. The Ruger LCP .380 pistol Sierra carried into the neighbor's apartment was traced back to Raheem's family. How did she gain access to it? Her story began to unravel. When questioned in January 2018 after her hospital release, Sierra presented a shifting narrative. She claimed that Raheem had been intoxicated, mixing alcohol and Xanax, and suddenly turned violent. She alleged that he attacked her, and in the chaos, she managed to grab his gun and fire in self-defense. Detectives pressed her for details, particularly about Raheem's stab wounds. She deflected, insisting he must have somehow inflicted them on himself. When asked about the bullet wound to the top of his head, she could not explain it at all. Her story grew thinner with every detail, but investigators had yet to present their strongest evidence. Geraldine reminded police of the recordings Raheem had been making. Detectives examined his phone and discovered audio files from that night. In chilling clarity, the recordings captured the argument escalating, the threats, the sound of Sierra's voice, and finally, the gunshots. The device had become Raheem's silent witness, preserving the truth of his last moments. For investigators, this was the break they needed, but for Geraldine, it was a heartbreaking validation of fear she had carried all along. Police had already secured Raheem's phone from the crime scene, but it was locked. Investigators faced a wall. Without the passcode, they had no way of knowing what, if anything, lay inside. There could have been texts, videos, or nothing at all. But then came the shocking twist no one anticipated. Sierra herself provided the passcode. Maybe she believed there was nothing on the phone that could hurt her case. Maybe she thought she could twist whatever evidence existed into her version of self-defense. But what detectives found once the device was unlocked was beyond anything they had imagined. On that phone were 4 chilling videos, each capturing pieces of Raheem's final moments. The first clip showed Raheem himself, injured and bleeding, holding up the phone to the bathroom mirror. His voice was weak, but his words carried desperation as he said Sierra had attacked him. He showed the knife. He displayed his injuries. It was clear he wanted to leave behind evidence in case he didn't survive. Seconds later, the sound of gunfire rang out in the background. Raheem groaned in pain, and the phone slipped from his hand. The following recordings were even darker. Sierra picked up the phone and began filming herself, alternating between hurling accusations and narrating her version of events. Detectives quickly noticed disturbing inconsistencies. Early in the footage, Sierra's legs bore no wounds, but as the recordings continued, blood suddenly appeared, suggesting she had stabbed herself after the fact in an effort to back up her self-defense claim. Then came the most haunting moment of all. In one of the final clips, Raheem, barely clinging to life, begged Sierra for a glass of water. His voice cracked as he asked to hold his daughter, Angel, one last time. Sierra coldly denied him both. Instead, she taunted him, telling him he could crawl if he wanted to reach their child. Then, with chilling calmness, she fired 2 more close-range shots at him. The footage was undeniable. In those recordings, Raheem had documented his own murder in real time. His phone had become his last testimony, one that shattered Sierra's claims of self-defense beyond repair. Detectives no longer saw a victim who had fought for her life. They saw a woman who had executed the father of her child and staged the aftermath to make it appear justified. On February 22nd, 2018, nearly 2 months after the killing, Sierra Harp was arrested and charged with malice murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of felony. By the time her trial began in 2019, the case was already infamous. This was not a murder pieced together through speculation or circumstantial evidence. The victim himself had left behind digital evidence of his own death. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was unbearably heavy as prosecutors began to lay out their case. Jurors watched in horrified silence as the videos from Raheem's phone played on the screens. Clip after clip painted a devastating picture. Raheem filming his wounds, Sierra yelling and accusing, and then those final, heartless gunshots. Some jurors turned away, unable to stomach the images. Others wept quietly. The prosecution argued there could be no clearer evidence. Raheem was not the aggressor. He was a man recording proof that he was being murdered. But Sierra's defense tried desperately to twist the story. Her attorney portrayed her as a woman caught in a toxic, abusive relationship, someone who acted out of fear and desperation. They brought up her troubled childhood, her unstable history, and alleged that Raheem had abused her. They wanted the jury to believe Sierra was not a cold-blooded killer, but a victim pushed beyond her breaking point. Yet prosecutors reminded the jury that the videos told a very different story. There was no evidence of fear in Sierra's actions. Instead, what the recordings captured was methodical, a woman stabbing herself to make her story look believable, a woman refusing a dying man water, a woman shooting him again as he begged to see his daughter. The evidence contradicted every claim of self-defense. Domestic violence experts further dismantled the defense's case. They testified about the bullet trajectories and wound placements, noting that most shots struck Raheem from behind, a clear indication he had been trying to get away, not attack. Everything pointed to a deliberate execution. But perhaps the most emotional moments in the trial came from family testimony. Raheem's mother, Geraldine, took the stand and spoke of her son's dreams, his devotion to his music, and his determination to raise his daughter, Angel, in a stable and loving environment.
Showed no mercy for my son, Sierra, and I should ask the court to show no mercy for you.
She revealed that Raheem had recently begun the process of filing for full custody of Angel, hoping to remove her from the toxic home she was living in. On the other side, Sierra's own mother shocked everyone in court. Adriana did not defend her daughter. Instead, she condemned her actions. She described Sierra as manipulative, destructive, and a source of chaos in every life she touched. In a stunning moment, Adriana even asked the judge to impose the maximum sentence. Her words cut sharply. Wherever you went, chaos and trouble followed. These actions were your choices, and they've taken a father from his child. I hope God doesn't have mercy on your soul, because you showed none to him.
This was something else. It was a startling turn of events. A mother took the stand during her daughter's sentencing and let her have it.
Oh, yeah. Channel 2's Tom Jones is live in Clayton County. Tom, the defendant's mother asked the court to give her daughter the maximum punishment.
Javita Sierra Harp's mother asked the judge to give her daughter life without parole, and she told Harp there are consequences when you are manipulative, when you are a liar, and when you are a murderer.
With no regards whatsoever, you murdered and you snatched Angel stared away from her.
One relative after the other.
I hope God don't have mercy on your soul, as you didn't have mercy on his.
Took the stand during this sentencing hearing for convicted murderer Sierra Harp.
So we're asking that the court impose the maximum punishment.
But none had the impact of Harp's own mother.
You reveled in disrespect, foolery, and ignorance.
Adrena Thurman gave her daughter a tongue lashing.
Wherever you went, chaos and trouble was sure to follow. I know for a fact these plans did not include you.
She thinks that's why Harp murdered Grant. Grant's mother wanted the death penalty, but it wasn't on the table.
You showed no mercy for my son, Sierra, and I should ask the court to show no mercy for you.
By May 2019, after days of gut-wrenching testimony and hours of deliberation, the jury reached its decision. Sierra Harp was found guilty of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. But the final blow came during sentencing. In June 2019, she was sentenced to 125 years in prison, life for malice murder, additional decades for aggravated assault, and more years for weapons charges.
Involuntary manslaughter will be 20 years to serve.
Judge Robert Mack sentenced Harp to 125 years. Grant's mother was happy with the long sentence.
It was one of the longest sentences handed down in Clayton County in recent memory. Raheem's mother later said she had wanted the death penalty, but since it wasn't an option, 125 years was justice enough.
Tom, it still seems like I'm still in a dream, and I can't wake up. To come up, and you need to turn them in, and you need to stand for what's right.
As the sentence was read, relief mixed with grief. Justice had been served, but it did not erase the trauma or bring back the man they had lost. For Raheem's daughter, Angel, the tragedy was especially heavy. At just 3 years old, she had not only witnessed her father's final moments, but also lost her mother to a lifetime in prison. After the trial, custody was awarded to Geraldine, Raheem's mother, who promised to raise Angel with love, stability, and the memory of the father who had adored her. Geraldine vowed that Angel would grow up and know who her father truly was, a loving man, a talented artist, and a parent who would try to protect her until his very last breath. Atlanta's hip-hop community also felt the loss deeply. Known as Red Bezzy, Raheem had been a rising figure in the underground scene. His friends remembered him as someone passionate about uplifting others through his music, someone who refused to embody the violent stereotypes often associated with the industry. After his death, vigils were held in his honor. Friends, fans, and supporters shared his songs online, turning his music into memorials that kept his voice alive. Social media filled with tributes, his lyrics quoted as warnings about jealousy, control, and unchecked rage. His funeral in Georgia brought together family, friends, and the music community. The service was filled with emotion, music, tears, and memories of a man who had touched many lives. Little Angel, Too young to understand the enormity of the tragedy, was there surrounded by the love of those determined to protect her future. The tragedy left behind haunting questions. Why hadn't the system caught the warning signs earlier? Raheem had voiced his fears and recorded his injuries. Why wasn't he given protection? Why wasn't Sierra's escalating jealousy and violence intercepted before it ended in murder? Cases like this force us to confront difficult truths. Red flags in relationships, control masked as love, jealousy disguised as protection, anger excused as passion, are often ignored until it's too late. Raheem's story is a painful reminder of the importance of recognizing those signs and taking them seriously. If you or someone you know is experiencing any form of abuse, emotional, verbal, or physical, please do not ignore it. Reach out for help. Confide in family, friends, or professionals. Resources exist that can provide support and safety before tragedies like this happen. Raheem Grant's story is not just another true crime case. It is a heartbreaking lesson about love twisted into control, about the dangers of unchecked rage, and about the devastating consequences of ignoring warning signs. He was a devoted father, a rising star, and a man who in his final act recorded the truth to ensure it could not be erased. His music lives on, his daughter carries his legacy, and his story reminds us all, jealousy is not love, and control is never care. Thank you for joining us for this investigation into the murder of Raheem Grant. If this case struck a chord with you, help us keep her name alive. Like this video, share with others, and subscribe to True Crimes Venue, so together we can continue uncovering the stories that matter, the cases that demand answers, the voices that deserve to be heard, and the truths that should never be forgotten.